Well, the three words that basketball fans love to hear. This is March. Let the madness begin. The Nebraska Boys State Basketball Tournament Week is upon us. And on the eve of the action getting underway here, we're on the heels of another amazing girls state basketball tournament. I'm Dillon Adams, joined once again today by Omaha World-Herald staff writer Stu Pospisil. And Stu, we're going to talk top players to watch at the end. We're going to hear from you about your predictions for this week. But first, if we want to put a cap on the girls' season, what was your biggest takeaway from last week? It was a really exciting week of basketball.
Oh, I wouldn't go that far, Dillon. What saved the tourney, in my opinion, was the Class B and then the Class A state
Sure.
final.
Yeah, those last two games. Yep.
It was kind of the best for last. We still have a lot of teams that struggle to score in big arenas. I keep a chart of superlatives, and again, a lot of games with the losing team in the 20s. That just shouldn't be. Maybe that suggests that we have too many classes. But what saved the tourney again, in my opinion, was Elkhorn North coming from 9 down to do it again to Omaha Scott. The Skyhawks, 3 years in a row in the state finals. The Wolves have gotten the better of them. As Kip Colony said, he's going to be probably sure to send a graduation card to Britt Prince, and probably one to Reese Booth might be in order too, because she made two very clutch free throws with the game tied, 10 seconds left. And the Northern Iowa setter prospect, daughter of Creighton volleyball coach Kirsten Bernthal Booth, provided the winning points, and then defended on the attempted game-winning shot by Molly Ladwig from the right corner. Scott people thought maybe there was some contact. Probably a good no call in that situation as referees would go. So that was 49-47. And then in the Class A nightcap, Millard West gets over the hump finally, 58-55 over Bellevue West. Mike Patterson's preseason number one, who had rallied from a 6-6 start to the season to run off 14 in a row before the final. And in that game, Millard West was down 12 in the second quarter, and Neely Gessert popped 3 threes in a row to bring them back before halftime. And second half was just a nice, intense struggle. And congrats to the Wildcats, just like to the Wolves, for reigning on the throne.
Yeah, Wildcats getting over the hump there. And, I thought it was just so impressive watching Britt, her constant energy, especially, on the glass in that game. I think she had several putbacks that were just really key, when they needed a bucket. Of course, they went to her. I don't know what else you can say about her amazing career, obviously undefeated at Pinnacle Bank Arena, and now she gets to go play there for 4 years at Nebraska. So
if she can go undefeated at Pinnacle Bank Arena for 4 years, Amy Williams is going to be ecstatic as Nebraska's coach. That probably won't happen, but so far Britt has just yet to taste defeat there. And she was playing with 2 Charlie horses most of the tourney. She had ice on her left thigh walking out on Friday, and she took a couple huge collisions on Saturday.
Oh, yeah.
And she'll have to learn to do that in the ruggedness of the Big Ten.
Yeah, you mentioned that late no call. I mean, I feel like that's how that game was officiated all day. So there were, really wasn't any difference there in the last 10 seconds that you would make that call, I guess. But
no.
Yeah, those few games were awesome. I guess any big surprises to you from the tournament? I know PAT, he went 4 for 6. So
that was the big surprise of the tourney.
Yeah,
he'll admit that he was hoping for maybe 3, but tell you what, Lincoln Christian had a very nice team. UTAN, gave the Omaha metro area a 3rd state champion, first time for the Chieftains. And Cole Carlton and his crew at UTAN, nice win there. And again, it was a normal type tourney, and we're going to see what happens next year when we have the shot clock for all 6 classes.
Yeah,
Will it help?
Right. I mean, because in some of those games, it really was just poor shooting, right? Rather than the
Right.
teams using a stalling strategy like we might see this week. I think that's one of the key storylines. You're talking about. We'll get to Jim Weeks and Auburn when we hit C1 in a little bit, but yeah, I mean that's just what it is. I guess is will we see more scoring with this shot clock expansion next year? But yeah, if we want to just move into the brackets, I guess here, starting with A. Um, Before we get to that, though, I think we have to talk about your article that came out this morning, talking about Gretna and Coach Feek. Uh, what has been, I mean, what else can you say but a miraculous run to the state tournament for those boys? A very emotional finish, that district final against Kearney, and that loud environment. You had that half court shot that maybe there was a little gust of wind coming from somewhere that pushed it off and give us the Dragons the 2-point win there.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's been a storybook that you wish the early chapters never had to be written. But
Yep.
Gretna, doing it for Coach Feek, Brad Feeken, for anybody who hasn't known the story, fought cancer valiantly for 2 years, passed away in late December, the day of a game that Gretna had. They chose to play it. Landon Prikorsky knocked down a shot from the baseline to beat Papio South in advance. And, the win over Kearney puts Gretna in the tourney again, facing Millard North, which has ended the Dragon season the past 2 years. To Brad's great friend and now coach Bill Hurd, it's like playing with house money now, and we've seen some magical, emotional, almost supernatural runs at state a few times by teams that have had tragedy occur within their midst, and take at least gotten to the finals. You know, Whenever Gretna's season ends, it's going to be a very emotional conclusion, whether it's a first round loss or a state championship win. I think there's going to be a lot of tears shed by a lot of people in green and white.
No doubt about it. And I invite, all of our listeners here to go check that story out on our website, omaha.com. As you lay out so well, I think you did a very well done story there. Talking about
Thanks.
Coach Hurd and the pride that he has in these kids. You can really hear it in his voice in the interviews that he's done. And, you know, all the work that they've done just to get here, like you said. And now to draw Miller North, I tell you what, it should be a entertaining matchup. Probably one of the best ones that we'll see tomorrow, right?
Well, first game was 80-75 in overtime,
Yeah.
Millard North winning. So, it's not like, in all four of these games tomorrow at Pinnacle Bank Arena, even Bellevue West Prep, you cannot definitively say that the higher seed's going to win this ball game.
Yeah. Yeah. No doubt about it. And so the Junior Jays, they slide to that 8 seed. They're getting the red hot Bell West. And looking at your predictions here, it looks like you're taking the T-Birds and Mustangs, round 5 in the Class A.
Nothing suggests working against that theory. Although I said you've got teams that I think can do an upset first round. I don't see anybody other than those two. And if you have a first round upset, maybe you have a unexpected team in the finals, and we certainly have had through the years. But the money line would be on Bellevue West and Millard North for round 5 because they've been the two hottest teams, and honestly, there's so little to separate them because their regular season game was in December,
Yes.
and Millard North won that the second Thursday of the year, and then they don't get the rematch because they lose to Central in the district or in the Metro Holiday Tourney,
Right. Yep.
and then Bellevue West hasn't lost since the Millard North game, and Millard North's only loss since the Central game was to the number one team in Illinois, which is no shame by any means there.
Yeah.
So, you know, I had, because they're so close, I had one of my twins, Adam, just call the coin flip, and it came up Bellevue West. You would have to say that the champion's going to be either Bellevue West or Millard North, but state tourney. I remember back in '88, Dillon,
Yeah,
before you were around,
sure.
Omaha Benson went on a late season run and then knocked off number two and number one to get to the finals. And then the juniors on what would be the great Elk or Millard South team of 1989, the undefeated team of Larry Ribble, they just pounded Benson in the final because Benson had spent so much the first two nights to get to the final.
Yeah.
But again, you just that we that's why we play the games, cliche, but there's going to be surprises here. The 3-point line certainly does it, and honestly, right now, there's a whole bunch of illness going through these schools, and you've got kids not up to par physically, and that may play a role in this.
Well, especially, yeah, like you said, when you're playing back to back to back nights, it can really take a toll on
Now,
any.
you got Class A and Class C2 this year, and Class D2
They
to
get to
get
play.
to
Yep.
play Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, and I think you're going to see the better semis and finals as a result of that. But you can't, you're, having a 4 or 5 or 6 day tourney just is not feasible. And Mike and I would probably be candidates for straight jackets at that point. But we've done it before. But yeah, it needs to be 4 days. It gets everybody into the big arenas. No high school gyms. No parking issues at Lincoln Southeast. Everybody's got a comfortable seat, and this is the way it should stay. 4 days and rotate some of the classes.
Yep, yep, agreed. So now looking at your matchup previews today, that's going to come out tomorrow in the paper. It was interesting to look at that point differential that you laid out. I think the T-Birds were around a plus 17, and then Millward North was like plus 24, which is just insane. The schedule they played was not easy, like you said, and included those out-of-state opponents. So, like you said, it really looks like those are the two favorites in A. And if we want to move into B now, I pull up my notes here. Yeah, obviously, like you said in your predictions yesterday, a 3-horse race.
I think it is. I think Cretan Scott are on the top half of the bracket. Norris is down below. Um, just to have Cretan Scott number one, number two in the semis, that happens sometimes. Again, Scott made a late season run. They were putting pieces together early. They lost a lot from last year's state championship team. Crete has had a injury to its 6'7" center Ehlers,
Mm,
but he's back playing on a bad knee, but it won't be any more impacted by playing. Does that make a difference? And again, you kind of have to look at schedules a bit because Crete's been playing in the Central Conference, and really they have one team in the tourney, and that's Crete. And Scott has been playing these Eastern teams, both the River Cities and the Eastern Midlands, which the Eastern Midlands has 3 teams in Elkhorn, Norris, and Bennington. And Scott and Roncalli have played a couple times. I just think Scott has played better competition, and I think they're going to find a way. And I've talked to coaches who believe they're playing the best ball in B right now. So that's why I went with Scott. Norris, excuse me, coming out of the other side. It'd be an interesting semifinal if it's Norris and Roncalli. Norris last year at Roncalli kept the defending champion home on a buzzer beater from a freshman. And knowing Roncalli fans, they haven't forgotten that shot at all. So, but Norris, very young still, a lot of sophomores and juniors playing key roles for Jimmy Moats. If they don't win it this year, they're going to be the favorite next year.
gotcha. Yeah, talking about Scott, 17-6 on the season. I remember around the holidays there, they lost Elkhorn North for the first time ever. Is that correct? And then,
Right. Yep. I was there for that one. That
oh,
that was early January after the holidays,
sure. And that was
and
kind of when they
might
were
be
in their
their
skid.
about
And
their last Class B loss. I mean,
yeah,
they played Central. They
yep,
played
and
a very strong
Hyatt.
schedule.
Yeah, so they played Pius Central, and then they lost at Bennington as well. That was a
Okay.
3-game skid at the end of January, and then I believe it's 8 in a row since then.
Okay.
They dominated their sub-district and District 2. I mean, those were not even close games.
Brock Scholl, 6'7", uh, forward for Scott. He's going to get some college looks, and
Yeah.
he has been he's averaging 20 points, 7 rebounds. He's the leading rebounder in the Class B tourney, and oddly, Class B, their rebounders traditionally don't have great numbers. I don't know what the what leads to that, but you seldom see a Class B kid with an average of 10 rebounds a game.
Hmm.
It's different.
It is different because, yeah, you had to put him in italics underneath a bunch of
Right.
guys that you were going to list, all the guys that had 8 rebounds and above. And so, yeah, it was interesting there to see how Class B shook out. But no, Brock is definitely a guy that we're going to get to at the end of this podcast when we're talking players to watch in Class B. Um, Moving on to C1, which, like you said, is probably the deepest field we have. It has 24 and 2, excuse me, Omaha Concordia as the 1 seed. And then Coach Jim Weeks, you talked to him, had the big story out yesterday regarding the shot clock expansion. He's leading the 3 seed Auburn.
Yeah, like again, Auburn probably needs to be in a different conference. They don't, not playing a lot of B teams. They don't pick up some of those bonus points that
Sure.
others, but 26-0 is 26-0. There's only 2 undefeateds in the state. Johnson Brock down the road from Auburn actually is the other. But it's going to be a grinder style for Auburn, and honestly, it probably won't change that much with the shot clock coming in because Auburn just defends so well, and if you could go defend hard for 35 seconds, get a shot clock violation, that just plays into Jim and Jackson Weeks's hands.
Sure.
So, but I think by and large, you're going to see scores improve with the shot clock, and I think you're going to see more teams think offensively, as we have seen with Class B. But yeah, no, I'm camped at Devaney on Thursday morning, Dillon. 4 excellent matchups: Concordia and Malcolm, Ogallala and Wahoo. Boy, that's a
Mhm.
game that goes back to 1992 when Ogallala snapped Wahoo's 114 game winning streak
Wow.
back at Devaney. Yeah, well, probably not the same floor at Devaney, but might be because Devaney's fort was really good. It was built solidly.
Same venue for sure. Yep. Yep.
Yeah, so I'm very well. Come to think about it, it might be the same floor,
Huh.
and you're going to have 2 teams want to try and score in the 70s in that one. Ashland Greenwood against a young Donovan Trumbull team. Ashland, the 2-time defending champion. Donovan, like Norris, if they don't get it done this year, they're going to be one of the favorites next year for sure. And then the rematch of a game I saw in December, Auburn and Douglas County West. Congratulations to the Falcons, first-time qualifiers, as they were in football. And again, Auburn won that one after trailing at halftime. Uh, I see Auburn ending Omaha Concordia's season in the finals. It'd be the 4th straight year that Concordia and Auburn would have met at the state tourney, and it may be the same result as the first 3, and a win for the Bulldogs from Auburn.
Hmm. So how far do you see Coach Weeks and the Bulldogs going with, the stalling strategies this week? We saw a 30-29 final back in 2019. That was when they won their first title. Do we see something under like 50 combined points? Is there
I
something that's
don't, I,
crazy?
they're averaging 63, and I think it depends who gets out in front in these games too,
Yep.
and also who might be, if you got a hot hand, you're going to ride it too. So, it kind of remains to be seen. Okay, who's got the ball with a minute 10 left in these games in a quarter? If it's Auburn, probably go for the last shot. So that'd be about 2 to 3 possessions with the shot clock. You may have only one,
Right.
and you still got to put the ball in the hoop when
Exactly.
you do have the ball. I mean, you take a look, Dylan. You got 35 seconds on the shot clock. Conceivably, you only have maybe, if you'd milk the clock and shot with a second or 2 left,
Mhm.
technically you could have like 8 possessions per team. So if you only make 4 shots on those 8 possessions, you've got 8 points in the quarter. That's 32 for the game.
Right. Yeah,
What the
it's
shot clock hopefully does is get offenses to be quicker and, maybe again, just be more offensive looking. Looking to score, looking to go inside, looking to kick the ball out and shoot the three.
yep. No, no, that's another one that I invite our listeners to go check that one out. I loved Coach Weeks' rendition to the PT Barnum quote. As long as they mention my name, spell my name right, regardless of what that quote is, it's what the longtime coach is known for sure. So it'll be fun to watch. And then yeah, I mean, you have them picked over Ashland Greenwood, who of course is going for 3 in a row. That's just a really fun field to watch.
Yeah, and those semifinals start Friday session at Pinnacle Bank Arena, and then the winners meet at 11 o'clock on Saturday morning. And I think it's Auburn and Omaha Concordia, the top 2 teams in my rankings. But again, you never know. And Wahoo just wants to get out of the first round, which they haven't done with Marcus Glock in the past 2 years. So
Yep.
and Ogallala, they're going to come out shooting as they always do. And Sawyer Smith, sophomore, he's a good scorer.
Nice. All right. So moving on to C2 here, we can get into the most wide open field now as preseason number 1 Amherst. They are the 1 seed in this tournament, in this bracket, I should say. 2020, 22-2 Ponca, which is a town, of course, near and dear to me, Stu. They're the
Yep.
2 seed this year.
Yep. Ponca's had good teams with the Kingsberries in the past, and may be tough for Ponca to get past a Lincoln Lutheran team in the semis. That Lutheran's strength of schedule,
Yeah.
their opponent's 63% winning percentage
Oh my
this
gosh.
year. So I mean that their 8 losses, that some have been to B, some to C1. I like Lutheran to get to the finals against Amherst, and Amherst gets the job done.
All right, cutting down the nets there. Okay, so D1, we get to see Carter Nelson and Ainsworth at Pinnacle Bank Thursday morning. That'll be super exciting, and maybe they make it to Friday. But 25-0 Johnson Brock is the 2 seed, and that is your pick.
We're defending champion, undefeated. Yeah, I think that, and they've won their games by an average of 30 a game. North Platte St. Pat's, I think, has been to the state tourney, played for the title last year. I like the Irish to get past upstart West Point Guardian Angels in the first round, and then I think it's a good game with Ainsworth. I think Ainsworth defeats Dundee County Stratton. That is tournament tested. I think they took third last year. Ainsworth hasn't been there for a few years, hasn't been there with Carter Nelson, but his dad coaches, and they've got 3 very quality players. Actually, he's probably their 3rd scoring option. Trey Appelt and Tragan McNally, both are capable of going off for great games. But I would say Carter Nelson's probably good for 1 highlight dunk, if not more, in that game from what I saw a little bit of the district final.
That's what we'll look forward to for sure. Yeah, I think Carter's averaging like 16 and 8, but then there's that Apple, and I think he's leading D1 in rebounding, correct?
Right.
Yeah, or I think he might be leading out of everybody in the field this week.
It's an interesting roster that the Bulldogs have. They have 4 kids, 5'6", listed at 5'6" on their roster.
Saw that. Yeah, that is wild. But then it looks like they can rebound a little bit. So
Yep.
interesting. All right, if we want to get into D2, our final one here, defending champ Lincoln Parkview was eliminated in districts, so a new champ awaits.
Yes, and Shelton, which beat Santee last year in one of the memorable games probably ever for D2.
Yeah.
Didn't get to the final last year. I think they do this year, and I think they beat Maywood Hayes Center, which is dropping down from D1 after they advanced to the semis last year. Why not is always a contender. They were the runner-ups last year in D2 to Parkview. Humphrey St. Francis, Mike Patterson's going to have a story in Wednesday's paper on What could be certainly looking like the last go round for the Flyers out of Humphrey with a merger with Lindsay Holy Family in the offing. And then Walt Hill, you always like to see the tribal schools, towns do well. And they're back first time since 2021, and they draw Sumner Eddyville Miller trying for a football basketball sweep.
Yeah, yeah, a lot of storylines in that one, and of course, probably the craziest is Shelton going for that first title in 105 years when they were in Class A, 1919.
They had won a lower class the year before, and the tournament committee put them in Class A, probably with some blessing from them, because back then it was seated by hand, seated by committee, and anybody could come. Anybody could. We're going to be in 2 years, Dillon, the centennial of when we had 22 classes of 336 teams in the state tournament.
Oh my goodness.
Can you imagine?
that
Then they
that
played it in I think 3 days.
how?
They had like 12 courts going,
Oh my gosh! I was gonna say,
and get this,
wow.
they would play a half. Those teams would take a break, and during the break they'd start the next game. So a court was never idle.
Are you serious?
I'm dead serious.
So they're just rotating courts essentially, or
Well, they'd have, okay, team A plays team B, and
yeah.
at halftime, team C plays team D. To get to their halftime, team B
Okay.
goes back on the court. So it was just half.
Wow.
So he'd play, rest for your halftime play, get off the court. The other two teams would finish their game, and then just keep going back and forth, like 8 a.m. to 10 p.m.
This is
Not
blowing my
stop.
mind right now. Wow. That is very interesting. What'd you say we're 1 year away from that?
2 years. 2026 is the biggest carnival of all time. Nebraska in the 1910s and 20s was known as the state that ran the largest basketball state tourney, coming into, not just eliminations of that, but bringing teams into one site.
That is unbelievable.
300, you can imagine how many games you have to schedule?
Yeah, being the
And
scheduling.
I've got the program. I have the 26 program.
That's something to keep. And that's a
Yeah.
story all in itself. Wow. Wow. So, okay. Well, if we want to move into players to watch now, and starting in A, I think you got to start with the Bell West guy, the senior Jaden Jackson.
South Dakota recruit, leading scorer for them. Bellevue West has 3 kids who have made 8 threes in a game. None of them are named Jaden Jackson. His best is 7. So Creighton Prep is going to have to try and either fool those guys down or try to match them. And they have some shooters too. But yeah, it's Jaden Jackson, very, very good off guard for Bellevue West.
He really is. You said he hasn't hit 8 threes, but he's still one of the best 3-point shooters, you would say, in Class A. I think I
Yeah.
saw he was at 48%, and that's
Well, and the 7 came against Sunrise Christian.
oh, yep, that's right. That's right. Yep, the out of state team. So, and I think I got his splits here: 57% from the floor, 48 from 3, and 80 at the free throw line.
Yeah.
That's on high volume shooting too. I think he has nearly 70 made threes on the season. So,
Mhm.
yeah, good stuff from him. And then you have the point guard for the T-Birds, Eldon Turner. He's a Wayne State commit. Like you said, Pulacek, Robbie Garcia, they both hit 8 threes this year. Just tons of shooters.
Jacob Rope is going to play a factor in the middle.
Yep.
Uh, yeah, Isaiah McMorris, the Nebraska football recruit. He comes off the bench. He can be instant offense with his quickness.
Yeah, all kinds of shootings for the defending champions, no doubt about that. And then, of course, the Mustangs, they're going to roll out Elijah Gaith. He's the top 5 2024 prospect, you would say. And all he's done this year is pass Hunter Salas's all-time assist record. And then he broke the single game record for the Mustangs a couple weeks back. He had 12 in one game.
You've got him. You've got the Mosser brothers,
Yep.
Major and Neil. Neil's got the school 3-point record. Derek Rollins might be their best overall player, a junior. He can do a double double any night out. He's their leading scorer and rebounder.
I think he
Grant
averages
Bond
in. Yeah.
has filled in the fifth spot very nicely for them, and Camden Money is kind of their Swiss Army knife. The unsung one, but I've written about him a couple times through the years, making clutch shots. So very formidable lineup, just like Bellevue West.
Maybe two other guys to watch tomorrow that are going to play against each other, ex-teammates, I believe. Myron Strawn and Delarian Thomas, both averaging over 17 a game this season.
Yeah, North and Central. North, Dillon, the one win they have in the first round of the state tourney was with Mike McGee. They've
Yep.
never won another game before or after that in the first round in 14 overall appearances. It's mind-boggling. Will this be the year they break the jinx against a rival too? And again, that I've got Central favored, but it's going to be this will be the most intense game I think of the first round, especially if it stays close through four quarters. It'll be really you know you'll get heated. Let's put it that way.
I'd have to agree with that. Yeah, there's going to be some passion on the floor. We saw that
Yeah.
earlier this season. And isn't that crazy that these two have never met in the state tournament? So, I mean, I think this is the matchup to watch tomorrow.
Yep. And you got West Side and Southeast. West Side's got four seniors: Ricky Lofton, Caleb Benning, Kevin Stubblefield, CJ Mitchell. In Southeast, Tay Moore really come on this year as a scorer for the Knights, and Southeast went to prep 2 years in a row, knocked off the Junior Jays last year. They knocked them out of the tourney, and this year, prep needed the wild card to make, and then of course two others we have to mention. Class A, Dillon, or the 4-year twins at Gretna, Landa Prikorsky and Alex Wilcoxon, each 1,000-point scorer, and definitely the emotional leaders of this team. And whatever happens, they're going to experience it the most.
Most definitely. Yeah. And I think we just named about 10 guys there, and we didn't even get to, well, I mean, obviously they're not in the field this week, but the top two scorers in Class A this year, Bryson Ball and Amari Bynum. Hopefully we get to see them next year in Lincoln.
Yeah, they're both juniors, and Ball and Papio South, they led North by 9. They're 18 on the road and lost in regulation. It just one of the all-time great comebacks in a district final, and by Omaha North. And Papio South went to North twice, had a combined lead of 39 points in the second half. The first time it was 21, and they couldn't bring home the win either time.
Yeah, just an insane finish to that district final for sure. So, all right, if we want to dig into Class B real quick, I think we already mentioned Brock Scholl, 20-7, and then you got Crete's Aiden McDowell. I think he had nearly 20 a game this year too.
Very nice player. Yeah, he can go off big time. I think he's Crete's leading scorer. He had 35 or maybe more against Bennington when I saw him early in the year. They had a great fun game to watch with Wahoo later in the year when Marcus Glock put up 54 for Wahoo that night. And opposite them again, Husker football alert, Ryman Ziebert from Platteview, Husker target for 2025. He'll be in that game. And going down the line, I think another one to mention is Brady McGill. Okay, which Brady McGill? The senior Brady McGill at Omaha Roncalli. Wayne State quarterback recruit, good athlete. Be an interesting matchup with Scottsbluff coming in from the West.
Yeah, no doubt. And then, of course, Norris has that combo of Barry Boziger and Chris Garner. They're combined for like 30 a game. And Boziger, he's one of the deadliest shooters I think that we'll see in Lincoln all week. I think he's shooting almost 50% from three.
I think he's healthy again. He missed a week with flu or virus type ailment, Jimmy Motes said. And again, yeah, these viruses, flu, have been going through teams. I've had a kind of a hacky cough that's much better. But yeah, it's kids and it's this time of year and temperature fluctuations and then you got Bennington. That's an old reliable. Aside from one player, their roster's like all 6-footers.
Sure.
So they're going to swarm Norris but yeah, I like what Norris has, and I've seen them a couple times, and they're certainly a title threat.
And kind of a segue into C1 here. I think, did you watch Norris play Wahoo and Glock this year? I think I remember
I
that.
I watched that one on TV.
Watch that one on TV. Yeah. So C1 is led by Marcus Glock. You've seen him a couple of times. What makes him so special? He's like the top scorer in the field this week, I think.
Well, he can go inside, he can go outside. Trained very well by his father. One of the all-time small school legends, Jason Glock, now a dentist in Wahoo. And if Jason physically, because he played football, he was a tight end in football, so he was like 6'4", 220. Marcus isn't quite that stature, but when he's on a roll, he made 24 or 25 three throws against Crete in Crete's gym to help get to that 54, and he had 6 assists that night to boot. So it's not like he's a ball hog. There was just a deal where he was hot, and the teammates fed him the ball that night, and Wahoo put up 81, but Crete put up 90.
Feed the hot hand. That's not a bad idea for sure. No, I'm looking forward to watching him play. And then I don't know if you have anybody else in C1. Otherwise, we can dig into C2.
Well, I think you've got Dane Jacobson from Ashland Greenwood. That's Cale's younger brother. He's definitely one to watch. Jack Poppy from Donovan Trumbull Jr. He's solid. Quintian McCafferty from Omaha Concordia going to Truman State, 6'10". He'll step out and shoot a three-pointer like a Cockbrenner will at Creighton.
Yep.
So again, this Thursday, I'll let Sam McEwen take the Husker football show at Pinnacle Bank Arena. I'm going to sit at Devaney and see what I think will be 4 really good, fun, mostly up-tempo games.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right. So, no, getting into C2, you got, is it Hadwiger for Amherst?
Paige Hadwiger, he
Yeah.
put up 30 plus the other night in the district final. He's leading C2's tournament field and scoring. Nice ball player. Been to state. I think this is their 3rd straight year. Leading rebounder there's Nolan Fennessy, all-state football player from Norfolk Catholic. Norfolk Catholic trying to make a football basketball sweep too. And Dillon, refresh me. Is he a Husker walk-on?
I believe so. Yeah, I think he
Yeah, I
was.
think he's a Husker football walk-on. So very athletic, as the two sports would suggest. Then we go to D1. Leading scorer there is Brecken Erickson from North Platte St. Pat's, who's a double-double, 19 points, 11 rebounds, and just a tick behind Trey Appelt from Ainsworth, who averages 11 boards a game. Two good ball players there. And then in Class D2, scoring leaders Ashton Simmons from Shelton at 22 plus a game, and Jeremiah Ingeson, another double-double guy for Maywood Hayes Center, 20 points, 10 boards a game. So you got some talent in the small schools, maybe not quite as many outstanding names. Scoring seems to be a little down in those classes. We again, the NSAA doesn't list the the point averages, so you have to calculate them themselves.
Sure.
Shelton in the smallest 3 classes averages 71 a game, and Johnson Brock is the one that plays the best defense, averaging 31 a game.
and I believe you had those two picked. So that's not bad options. All right, Stu. Thanks so much for hopping on with me and running through a little preview here. Looking forward to this week. Get some rest tonight, obviously. Starting 9 a.m. tomorrow. Where are you going to be? You're going to be at Shelton Humphrey St. Francis for the might be the last hurrah for the
Yep, it
Flyers.
might be. Yep, be there for the two D2s, and then Class A takes the court with Bellevue West and Prep. Students love that one. They get out of school, so.
Yep. You got it. You got it. So, all right, Omaha.com subscribers, enjoy all the coverage from Stu and Mike this week. And thanks for listening.